Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Everyday Boss podcast. I'm Jennifer Jayne, the founder of the Fempreneur Collective, and I'm so excited to finally bring this podcast to life. It's been a long time coming. First, I want to start off by sharing who this podcast is for. This podcast is for women in business and female entrepreneurs just like you. You're looking for opportunities to grow. You're looking for opportunities to be more visible, and you really want to create more consistent revenue and sales in your business. So that's who this is for, but what is the why behind this podcast? Well, this podcast was really developed and created and has been a heart project of mine for several years because I want to shine the light on the incredible work that women are doing and to have real, raw conversations about what it takes to build a business every single day. Success does not happen overnight. It's a series of small steps. And so I want to talk about the small steps and how we show up every single day in our business with incredible entrepreneurs just like you. So how did all of this start? Well, I'm going to tell you my business story and how I got my start online in the digital entrepreneur space. In 2011, I met a guy and fell in love and decided to move to Texas. I'm Canadian. I live in Canada right now, but I moved my whole life and my whole world down to a little small town in Texas and got married. And my now ex-husband, spoiler alert, was very much a confirmed bachelor. So I spent the first year of being married really trying to turn the bachelor pad into a home we could both love and enjoy. And as a part of that, I started a blog because I was doing these cool projects and doing these cool crafts and really kind of trying to make over this home. That blog still exists and was what introduced me to the world of digital entrepreneurship. Back in 2011, it was starting to be a thing where you could actually make a little bit of money by having a blog. And so I pursued that and I started making money with my blog. And then one day a friend was like, hey, I'm going on vacation, and we're talking about the days long before you could actually pre-schedule content. So there were no scheduling tools. You couldn't arrange for things to be on Twitter early or, post to Instagram without you. Everything had to be done live. And so my friend was going on vacation and she's like, it would be amazing if you could help me out and share these tweets for this sponsored content that I have while I'm on vacation. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, bet, no problem. So we did that for the 2 weeks she was gone. And when she came back, she loved the idea of not having to be so attached to her computer and locked into things that she asked me to be her virtual assistant. And I was like, okay, another way to make money. Let's go. Well, that was the start of my VA business turned social media management business turned full scale agency and hitting 6 figures in 2017. There's a lot of stuff that happened along the way, and I'm sure that will come up in later episodes of the podcast, but that's we're going to jump from 2012 straight to 2017, where I was clearing 6 figures with my social media management agency, and I did some really cool shit that year. I decided that in 2017, it was the year of right now. It was the year of no more some days, and I was going to start making my dreams happen. And I was going to make them happen fast. I was no longer waiting, and I was no longer saying someday about the things that I wanted to accomplish in my business. And one of those goals was to retire my husband. And so I set that goal in August, and by November, I had achieved that goal. I hit the financial figure and the savings figure we needed to feel comfortable with him coming off of the road. He was a long-haul trucker, so he was gone most of the time, and was able to achieve that very quickly and even surprised myself a little bit. And so people were like, holy shit, Jennifer, how did you accomplish that? How did you make that happen? And so I started telling this story and I started coaching people to figure out what their clear goals were and then figure out the action plan to make that happen. I fell into coaching kind of accidentally and landed a few coaching clients, was still running the social media management agency, working too many hours a week, probably a good 50, 60, 70 hours some weeks, but it was what was needed to get things done. Now, while that was the beginning of something epic, it was also the beginning of the end of my relationship. One of the things that I hadn't really been aware of with my relationship is just how toxic and harmful it was. And my ex being a narcissist, right? When someone's gone for 5 or 6 weeks at a time and you only have to like kind of be in their space and in their energy for 4 or 5 days, and everything's about them for their 4 or 5 days because you've missed them and you haven't seen them, it's really easy to gloss over some things. And it's really easy to miss the signs of narcissistic abuse and toxicity in your relationship. So with him being home full time, 2018 and 2019 became some of the most amazing and some of the worst years of my life. When we get to 2020, the whole world was impacted by what was going on. But I had also just started to realize just how unhappy I was, how miserable I was, and how much I was struggling to just want to do anything for my business. I was avoiding my husband. I was hiding myself in the busy work. And as a result, I was starting to see a decline in my income because I was really just, trying to survive and not paying attention to the details. So in 2020, I realized that it was time for me to leave Texas. It was time to end my marriage, and it was time for me to start fresh. So I did. In November of 2020, I left Texas, and one of my business besties at the time, and now my business partner, and one of the things that I do, and who's going to be my very first guest in the next episode, she actually picked me up in Amarillo, Texas. A friend drove me to Amarillo. A friend from Texas drove me from where I lived to Amarillo. And then in Amarillo, my friend Sharisa picked me up, took me to her house. We hung out there for a few days while she did a couple of things for her real estate business. And then she drove me across America to the Canadian border in the middle of COVID. It's the greatest, I call it the greatest game of bathroom roulette you will ever play. Because we didn't know if when we stopped to use the restroom or get food or get gas, if the business was even going to be open or even willing to let people inside. So most of the places we could get gas and just pay by card, but every once in a while we ran into some bathroom issues, like where we'd stop somewhere and they wouldn't let you into the building to use the restroom. So much fun. 0 stars. Do not recommend. We had some cool experiences and some absolutely life-altering conversations in those 4 days that we drove from Colorado to the border in Canada along in Michigan, right? So we went to the Detroit border. That's where my mom picked me up at the border and took me home. And I started my life all over again. But I started life all over again on purpose. I knew I had some very specific things that I wanted to achieve. I knew I had some very specific goals that I was not willing to compromise on. And I absolutely had to really build on a foundation of what do I want most out of my life? What am I willing to do to get it? What am I not willing to do to get it? And I had done some of this work in Texas, but really part of my healing journey, those first 8 to 12 months in Canada, after leaving my now ex-husband, was spending time really diving into my core values and figuring out the things that mattered the most to me, why they mattered, what I was willing to do to achieve them, what I was not willing to do to achieve them, as I was saying before. But really, like, the heart and soul of everything I wanted to do was going to be built on these core values. The business of my dream, the life of my dream, the future relationship of my dream, the home of my dreams. I went into minute detail about what all those things looked like, how they impacted me, how I wanted them to impact me, and how they were going to feel when I was achieving them, so that I would know when I was actually achieving them. So that's really kind of where it all started. And that moment in 2020 where I was like, I've done some cool stuff, but this is not enough for me, and I don't want to get trapped in the box. And that was what my life in Texas had become, was really this tiny little box that I couldn't bust out of. And I wasn't willing to play small anymore. And so I did the hard thing. Along with that, came some new obstacles and challenges around business, around revenue growth, around visibility, around, building my own community. And that's really where the Fempreneur Collective comes into play. The day this podcast launches, February 1st, is the 2nd anniversary of the official launch of the Fempreneur Collective. And the Fempreneur Collective was born out of this desire to really build a community that didn't play favorites, that was open and honest about business journeys and processes, and really leaned into the power of collaborations. everything I've accomplished in my business and a lot of the things that have been pivotal moments in my personal life have come because of the relationships I've built through my business. And that success has been absolutely instrumental to being able to walk away from a life that wasn't serving me, start over from scratch. The people that supported me along the way were business friends that had become real life friends. And all of that led me to where I am today, starting this podcast. And sharing these stories with you is such a big thing. And it's been on my heart for a long time. I think I've been saying for 8 or 9 years that I wanted to start a podcast. And I went through the beginning stages a couple of times. I bought the domain Everyday Boss for a podcast like 6 years ago, before I even left Texas. So it's been a thing I've wanted to do for a very long time. And 2025 is the year that I am no longer saying someday for the second time. And so I really want to talk about why collaborations are really so important. I want to show the power of collaborations through the conversations we're going to have on this podcast and really develop deeper level relationships. And I really truly believe that as entrepreneurs, there's so many opportunities for us to talk about the fluffy side of business and the kind of like theoretical and you know, kind of fluffy feel good stuff of business, but not really the what do you do on a daily basis to show up in your business and stay consistent? What are the actions you are taking every single day, right? That's the premise behind Everyday Boss. We show up every day, not, you know, commonplace every day, but every single day we're showing up for ourselves and for our business. And the things that we do to execute that are conversations we need to be having more of. So that's what some of these conversations are going to be about. It's going to be an opportunity for women in business and entrepreneurs just like you to share their stories. So if you want to be on the podcast, reach out to me. I'd love to have you. Now, when it comes to the role of collaboration, those key partnerships that I've developed over years of networking have made a significant impact. You know, that my friendship with Sharisa and her ability to say, yes, I will drive you across the country was because we met in a business avenue and started connecting around business. And then business became life, and life became this massive shift and alter in my personal life that she was willing to be a part of because she believed in who I was and my capacity and cared enough to do something challenging. It wasn't easy for her to stop everything and drive me across the country. It was inconvenient, but she did it because she cared about who I was, not just as a business partner, but as a human. And those are the kinds of relationships and collaborations that can drastically alter the trajectory of your business, but also the capacity of your life. And I want more entrepreneurs to find those. Entrepreneurship can be really lonely and feel really one-sided and scary. But when you have people who are so heavily invested in your success that they're willing to drive you across an entire country to take you to your mommy so that you can fix your life, those are the relationships that will last forever and you can build epic, cool shit on. And her and I have partnered since 2023 in a business venture called Enchanted Prosperity. We have an incredible membership that is all about getting consistent with your revenue, your visibility, and your growth in your business. And you will definitely hear me talk about that more in the future. But this episode is really just about the heart and soul of what we're doing. Now, why this podcast matters. I know that there are so many incredible women who are amazing at what they do, but they're struggling to get in front of the right people. I've been there, and I know so many of you. The goal of this podcast is 3 things. Visibility. I want to help entrepreneurs get seen and be heard. So you get to capitalize, the guests that are going to be on this podcast get to capitalize on the community and readership and visibility that I've built, while also lending me theirs, right? Because their audience is going to listen to this podcast when they recommend it, going to read the articles that will be written about this podcast. There's some mutually beneficial collaboration happening with these podcast episodes. But really, the number one goal is visibility. I want to give as many people the opportunity to be seen and heard and talk about the incredible work that they're doing as possible. The second point for this podcast is business growth. We're going to have strategic conversations. We're going to be talking about the tools, tactics, and strategies that actually help entrepreneurs and women in business move the needle, that get you consistent, that get you revenue, that get you growth, that get you money, that get you paid. Those are the conversations that are going to be the heart and soul of what we're doing. And the third thing is really that consistent revenue. We're going to have real talk about sales. We're going to talk about offers. We're going to talk about scaling. We're going to talk about the things you have to do on a daily basis to actually make money as an entrepreneur. So these are the kinds of conversations we're going to be having. I want them to be honest. I want them to be actionable. And I definitely want them to feel community-oriented and driven. So if you have comments or feedbacks, please let me know. I'm an open book and I want to have these conversations both on the podcast and off the podcast with entrepreneurs just like you. So what can you expect in future episodes? There will be incredible guests who are experts. They're going to be business owners, community builders, and leaders. They're going to be from a whole variety of expertises and niches and histories and zones of genius. We're going to talk about things like content strategy. We're going to talk about things like delegation and hiring VAs or hiring assistants or hiring teams. We're going to talk probably, a little bit about automation and AI because that's one of my zones of genius. We're definitely going to be talking about collaborations. And we're going to be talking real shit. We're going to tell the hard stories and the honest truths and really dive into what I hope is the meat and potatoes of who they are and how they show up in their business. My goal is that every episode leaves you with a tangible takeaway. There's something that you can go implement and take action on in your business. That's the goal. Whether it's a connection to someone who you need to hire to help support you, or a coach that's going to ask you the right questions to move the needle, or even mindset tips or techniques. My third episode is with Jen, and she's a mindset and expert and hypnotherapist. She's an amazing person that I think everyone should be connecting with. So it might be someone you need to connect with and learn from. It might be an actual go do this in your business right now and see the difference. It might be strategic questions that you need to ask yourself to be able to hone in on your plan and your strategy. The goal, tangible takeaways that you can actually apply in your business. And I think I've said it before, but I really want this to be a two-way conversation. My DMs are open. Please message me on Instagram. You can email me at any time. You can leave comments on our website. I want to make sure that you're getting your questions answered. And I'm also finding experts in the topics that you want covered. So if you have something that's like, man, I really need to learn about this, and I'd love to learn from it from a podcast, tell me. I will go find an expert. I know so many people, and I'm super excited to have all of them on my podcast. So all of this to say, this episode's going to be a little bit shorter than our typical episode. Most episodes are going to probably run 30 to 45 minutes. If it gets over 45 minutes, I'm just going to break it up. I personally love listening to shorter, more digestible episodes. So I'm going to kind of create that. As entrepreneurs, we tend to create the things we love the most and the things we would actually use, which is not always the best idea. We can dive into that later because our ideal client doesn't always consume or listen or learn the way we do. So we have to be open to different opportunities. But to start, I'm going to do it the way I would like to listen, because we all have to start somewhere. And then maybe one day we'll do hour-long episodes. But that's a future thing to figure out. For now, I'm aiming for 30 to 45-minute episodes that you can actually take action on, learn, grow, implement in your business. So if this sounds like the kind of show that you've been looking for, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. There's also an opportunity for you to join the email list that's going to make it easier for you to I can actually email you and tell you exactly what you'll expect in the episode and a link to just go listen to it right then and there. And it would mean so much to me if you believe in the power of collaboration, if you believe in the power of real authentic conversations, and I hope you do, that you would follow and share and engage in the content around this podcast. Please tag me on social media. Let me know what your biggest takeaways are. Comment on our reels. Comment on the little clips we're going to be sharing about these podcasts. I've got so many ideas. I want to turn every podcast episode into a blog post on the Fempreneur Collective website. There's going to be some fun reels. There's going to be some one-liners and takeaways for social media. You can also watch these episodes on YouTube. They're going to be on YouTube as well. So leave a review, like, share, comment, follow, subscribe, all of the things you're always being asked to do at the end of a podcast. It really does make a huge difference to the impact we can have, the reach we can have, and sometimes even the motivation or momentum behind your favorite hosts, to see that people really like us, that you really love what we're doing, that there's a point to the effort and energy we're expending. Comments can really truly make my day. So if you don't mind, it would mean so much to me if you would just leave a comment. Okay, I've talked enough about how you can support me. What I want to tell you is that in the next episode, I'm going to be sitting down with Teresa, my business bestie, probably one of my actual besties, the person who drove me from Texas to Canada, and my business partner. We're going to be talking about revenue. We're going to be talking about visibility. We're going to be talking about growth. And I'm really freaking excited. It's going to be awesome. And I've got some really cool guests lined up, people that I've been on their podcasts years ago, months ago. And I finally get to invite them to be on mine. And I'm super excited about the amazing conversations that I get to have and you get to be a part of. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking, following, and sharing. And I'll see you in the next episode.